Well, hello, everyone. I'm Father Adrian Graffy, and we are organising from the parish of Gidea Park various study days. And I'm delighted that our next study day on the 6th of March is called Learning from COVID. And we're welcoming Sister Dr. Gemma Simmonds of the Congregation of Jesus. She's a well-known retreat giver and broadcaster. And learning from COVID, I think most of us are saying, forgetting about COVID. But to learn from COVID is perhaps what we ought to be doing. What do you think, Gemma?
Well, I certainly think I've learned some things from COVID. I don't know about anybody else. I wish I'd learned how to be more patient. I wish I'd learned, how to take each day one day at a time, rather more than I have. I suspect I've done my fair share of fretting and getting frustrated like everybody else. But it seems to me that there really have been lessons that I have learned from COVID, and I hear from friends, from family, from neighbours, when we've all stopped moaning and saying how ghastly it all is, and reflect on it. Some of us, I've certainly heard people repeatedly say, but all the same, I have learned, or something has grown for me, something has shifted for me. There has been, I think, a shift in perceptions for many people that has not been an unhealthy thing.
Yes. I mean, one of the things certainly in the first lockdown that people were noticing was creation. And of course, that raised huge issues because arguably things went wrong because we didn't treat creation right.
Well, I received very early in the first lockdown a postcard from one of our sisters in Germany, and it featured the globe with a COVID mask on. And the logo said, "Don't let's try to go back to normal. Normal was the problem in the first place." And actually, I've been doing some thinking and reflecting on this, and I think that for me, one of the great themes of this whole COVID experience has been masking and unmasking. We've all got used to wearing masks now, a thing that I think most of us never thought we would do, never thought we would have to do. And I think what COVID has unmasked for many of us is the horrendous inequalities and the ways in which we have just accepted the ruining of creation and the massive social inequalities, not just out there in some far distant country, but on our own doorstep.
Yeah.
The fact that so many people in this country are having to have recourse to food banks because they simply cannot feed their own families. But we know that that was already happening in intolerably large numbers. It's just that it didn't bother us, so we didn't really think about it that hard. So it seems to me that COVID has taken the mask off a number of those issues which we kind of lived with. We vaguely knew about it, but oh dear, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Must get on with my busy life.
Yeah.
And now that my busy life has actually been dismantled to a large extent, I can't avoid those things. I can't avoid thinking about where my food comes from. Where my deliveries from the supermarket, where does this produce come from? And who is involved in producing the food that I eat, and how just are the wages that they're getting for doing that? And I think this whole issue of essential workers, I imagine most of us would have been very much aware of, doctors and nurses and ambulance drivers and things. But actually, the people who pick up our rubbish, the people who clean our streets, the people who enable the system in which we live to function. I think that's something I've really learned about.
And really valuing those people. So
Yeah.
very often they're people in low paid jobs. So, I mean, that's what we ought to learn, and not only learn, but do something about it.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
of course, if we're talking about our brothers and sisters, we're also thinking of vaccinating people.
Yes.
And we ought to be doing it because they're our brothers and sisters. But we've got an added incentive is if we don't do it, if we don't see to it, then we're likely to have more COVID, more forms of COVID coming back. So it's actually, there's a whole huge lesson there, isn't there?
I think there is. And I think there is a question also. I mean, one of the things I'm spending hours of every day now online. I'm surprised my eyes aren't square shaped at the moment. And that's because I do all my teaching on Zoom, and I now do all my spiritual direction on Zoom. All the people, the clients that I see is on Zoom. And I'm therefore terribly aware, much more aware probably, of the way in which the truth is being manipulated online and in the media, and particularly, in this kind of computer-related media. And I think that one of the things I'm learning is to be discerning about what I read, discerning about whose voices I'm listening to, discerning about checking out facts. And it seems to me absolutely tragic that many people are refusing to be vaccinated because they're allowing themselves to be guided by manifestly, false information. And I was talking today to a young Catholic doctor who, she's the mother of a large family. Her husband works in a school. She's on the absolute front line and looking at trying desperately to get the people who need vaccinations to have them. And I think it's very frustrating for our medical staff when they are faced with people refusing vaccination because they've been listening to misinformation. So I think one of the things we need to learn is to be more discerning about how we read newspapers and the media and what information we take in.
Yes, and you and I are church people, so we must be thinking quite a lot about, well, what is the role of the church, and has the church stepped up? And it isn't too late if we haven't.
Yeah, that's a much bigger
That's a
question.
much bigger. I can offer you one very positive thing there, that obviously a lot of people have gone online, and they've gone all around the world.
Yeah.
So I think the vision of a church, which is truly brothers and sisters in every country, if we can bring that then to help people in our own country, in our own localities. Well, Gemma, I'm delighted that we've got you thinking, and we've got you talking, and we're very much looking forward to meeting again.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the 6th of March. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So let me just repeat for everybody, it's whatgoodnews.org. That's where you go at 11 o'clock on the 6th of March. And if you happen to miss it, it will be up there on that same website very soon afterwards. So thank you very much, Gemma. Thank you, everybody. And look forward to being with you on the 6th of March. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.